Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be giving my NBA DraftKings picks for Monday, December 4th. We got a really nice slate today on this Monday, an 11-game slate. So we got a lot of players to look at. I'm going to go through each position and talk about some guys I'm looking to target at each price range. If you are new to the channel, that is what I do in all my videos. And if you are new, make sure you subscribe. I would definitely appreciate it. Also, be sure to drop a like on the video. Would also appreciate it as well, guys. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started looking at some point guards to target today. Alright, so at point guard, up top of this position, got two studs here. Ben Simmons, Steph Curry, even Victor Oladipo. I guess you could consider him a stud the way he's been playing lately. Some of these top options do have really good matchups today. Ben Simmons is going up against the Suns. Obviously, there's blowout potential here, but we know Phoenix played they played a very fast pace. They're not a good defensive team against the point guard. So this is a really good spot for Ben Simmons. Hasn't been paying off his price tag lately, though. Has had just some mediocre games as of late. Just in his last couple games, 40 and 28 DraftKings points. Even has a 29 in there against Cleveland. Obviously, a big upside game against Washington where he put up 66. But Simmons really hasn't been doing much lately. And I don't think he's a guy I'm trying to force into my lineups today. Obviously, since it's an 11-game slate, we do have a ton of other stud options to pay up for. I don't think Simmons is the guy I'm going to be trying to pay up for today, but it is a really good matchup. He's obviously a good tournament play against the Suns. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Simmons got a triple-double today. So you can pay up for him. Me personally, I don't think I'm going to be doing it, though. I think I'd rather pay up for Steph Curry, take a $400 discount and go with Curry today. Really good spot against the Pelicans. RAJON RONDO defense, definitely not something we're afraid of. And Curry, unlike Ben Simmons, has been a lot more just consistent as of late. 52, 44, 43, and 52 DraftKings points in his last 4 games. Really nice price tag today as well. Got a $500 decrease off of what he was his last game. So I think it's a really good spot for Steph Curry. Even though the Pelicans are going to be without Anthony Davis today, this could be a competitive game, especially since it's being played in New Orleans. So I definitely like the potential to stack up this game. A lot of these Warriors guys, KD we'll talk about in a second at small forward. He's really underpriced in my opinion. Boogie's going to be without the Pelicans are going to be without AD today, so we're obviously going to want to consider Boogie, even though his price tag has started to get up there. But like I said, there's a lot of game stack potential here in this Golden State New Orleans game. Definitely should be high scoring. Hopefully it stays competitive. I think the Pelicans can keep it close. So if you're going to pay up for point guard, I think I'd go Curry over Simmons, but both guys, really good matchups, really good spots. I think both are worth paying up for. If we're looking for point guards that are a little bit cheaper that we can target, I don't think there are any mid-tier options that I'm trying to force into my lineups today, but there are definitely some good options here like Jrue Holiday. Without Anthony Davis, Jrue Holiday, he does get a nice bump just when it comes to usage. In their last game without Anthony Davis, Jrue Holiday, he played 38 minutes. That's just normal for Holiday. He always plays that amount of minutes. But did put up 33 DraftKings points, took 18 shots, which is kind of more than we normally see him take. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Like I said, 33 DraftKings points in their last game against Portland, and didn't get that big of an increase in price, only a $300 increase. So Jrue Holiday, definitely a guy we're going to want to consider without Anthony Davis. He does see a nice bump in usage and shots. Him, Boogie, and Rondo are 3 really good options today. I think if the Pelicans are able to keep this game close, it's going to be because of those 3 guys. So Jrue Holiday at 6,300. If you want to go to that mid-tier at point guard or shooting guard, he would definitely be the guy I would target without Anthony Davis today. I think he's a very good option. And then if we're looking for some options that are a little bit cheaper, we got a guy with the revenge narrative today, Dwayne Wade, going back to Chicago to face the Bulls, his former team. So there's that revenge narrative. Obviously, Dwayne Wade's not a guy we're trying to force into lineups just because he's not a high upside guy. But if you actually look at his last 4 games, he's been playing pretty well. 31, 32, 38, and 29.5 DraftKings points. So been consistent. Wade has flashed a little upside this year. I do believe, yeah. Against the Clippers, he had 50 DraftKings points. And if Wade comes off the bench and he's making his shots, he will play some extended minutes. I don't think he's seen like over 30 minutes at all this year. Did play 37 against the Clippers, and that was his big game where he went off for 50. But Wade usually isn't a heavy minutes guy. He'll usually see mid-20s in minutes. But if he's playing really well, could see some extra minutes, especially if it's a competitive game. If it's a blowout, Dwayne Wade usually doesn't get blowout run. But if the game stays close, D-White's playing well. He's got the revenge narrative going. Could be an interesting option for tournaments. At 5,600 if you are looking to that price range. If we're looking for some value at this position, there are 2 guys at this 5K range. Not really cheap value plays, but definitely mid-tier options. Jamal Murray, guy we're definitely going to want to consider. Now that Nikola Jokic is out, Jamal Murray does see a very nice big increase in usage and shots. He did see a nice increase just in overall production in their last game against the Lakers. Played 33 minutes and put up 44 DraftKings points. Obviously, that was a very good matchup for Jamal Murray. Definitely a good spot here against Dallas. Although Dallas does play at a really slow pace, they're not the best defensive team. And with no Jokic today, like I said, Jamal Murray is going to see a big increase in usage and in shots as well. So I think he's a good option at 5,100. But there is another guy right at that same price tag that you could obviously make an argument for. That's Rajon Rondo at 5K going up against the Warriors. Rondo, I don't think he's on a minutes limit anymore, but he hasn't been seeing heavy minutes just as of late. 27, 27, 29, and 28 minutes in his last 4 games. To begin the year, we know he was on a minutes restriction because he was coming off an injury. I don't think the restriction's on anymore. He's just not getting heavy minutes. But Rondo's always a guy that when he's on the court, he's going to do so much for you when it comes to fantasy. He has triple-double upside. He'll rebound. We obviously know he'll assist. He's a good scorer as well. Almost got a triple-double against Utah. Almost got a triple-double against Portland. And in a game without Anthony Davis, you would imagine Rondo's going to be relied on a little bit more when it comes to scoring. Did put up 38.5 DraftKings points in the last game against Portland, and AD was out that game. So I think Rondo, definitely a good option. Him, like I said, him, Jrue Holiday, Boogie Cousins. I think those 3 guys are going to be very key to the Pelicans. If they want to keep this game close, it's probably going to be because of those 3 guys. So I like Rondo, Jamal Murray. If you're looking in that 5K range at point guard, I think those guys make a ton of sense. And then if we are looking for some value at this position, JJ Barea, I talk about him all the time, but the guy just gets the job done. Price tag rarely increases. Has started to get up there in price. Now he's at 4,600. He's just looking at his last few games. 37, 21, 43 DraftKings points. Barea has flashed a little bit of upside. And this is a very good matchup against Denver, who is a bad team against point guards. This is an up-and-pace spot for the Mavericks. They are going to be playing at a faster pace, having to go up against Denver. So if you do want a cheap point guard, I don't think Barea is a guy I'm forcing in today because there are a ton of value plays on this slate. There are a ton of guys that are just underpriced because of how many minutes they're going to see with injuries. But Barea is a value play that I think you can consider at 4,600. And then another value play right under him, Michael Carter-Williams. If Kemba Walker is out today, this is a really good spot for Michael Carter-Williams. Definitely a guy we're going to want to target for value. With Kemba out just in the last 2 games, MCW has played 32 and 28 minutes and has put up 21 and 29 DraftKings points. So he's been getting the job done for you, especially if you played him in cash games. Obviously, that's not really going to excite you in tournaments, 21 and 29 DK points. But for cash games, you usually want 5x, and Carter-Williams has been doing that lately. This is a really good matchup against the Magic, who are very bad defensively against the point guard. It's an up-and-pace spot. Orlando does play at a very fast pace. So definitely think Michael Carter-Williams is a really good value play today if Kemba Walker is out. And I think that's it for point guard value today, guys. Those are some value plays that I see that I'm going to be looking to target. Let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard. Alright, so at shooting guard, I don't think this is a position I'm going to be looking to pay up at. Unless you want to go to Curry, you want to play him at shooting guard, I think he's fine. Victor Oladipo has been playing insanely well lately, but I don't know if I can pay $8,700 for him. Definitely a good matchup against the Knicks, but I think if I'd pay up for a guy that expensive, I'd just go up to like Curry or Ben Simmons. So not going to be paying up for Oladipo, probably just not going to be paying up for shooting guard in general. Going to be looking to this mid-tier for some options. In this mid-tier, KLAY Thompson is in a really good spot today, going up against the Pelicans. The Pelicans do really struggle to defend the shooting guard. KLAY Thompson has played very well in their 2 games this year against the Pelicans. He's averaged 43.8 DraftKings points in 2 games versus the Pelicans. So Thompson's played really well against this team. Obviously at 7K, that's kind of a hefty price tag to pay, but he has paid off his price tag in 3 of his last 4 games, getting 42, 36, and 39 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 games. I always think Thompson's more of a tournament play, though, just because of the upside he has if he's making his shots. He's never really a guy like to target in cash games, but because you're really relying on him to be making his shots, because if he's not doing that, not really going to do much. But for tournaments, we know Thompson has so much upside, especially if he gets hot from the field. So he's a tournament option. I think makes a lot of sense. He's played really well against the Pelicans this year. So if you want to go to him at 7K, I think he's definitely a good option for some tournaments. Jrue Holiday is available in this price range. Definitely a guy like at 6,300 if you're going to that mid-tier shooting guard. That's probably where I would play him if you're going to play him at either point guard or shooting guard. I definitely play him at shooting guard because there are other options you can target at point guard. And then some more options in this mid-tier. Gary Harris at 5,800. I feel like Gary Harris is still a little bit underpriced. especially with no Jokic. Harris is just going to see a ton of minutes. He already plays a ton of minutes, but with no Jokic, Harris is going to see an increase in shots. Just in his last 4 games, the guy's been so consistent. 32, 26, 39, and 32 DraftKings points in his last 4 games. So he's hit value in nearly all 4 of his last 4 games. And he didn't see a price increase at all. He's still the same price tag that he was on Saturday. So definitely like Gary Harris here. I think we are going to want to target some of these Nuggets guys, especially for value and for mid-tier options, because these guys are really cheap and they're going to see a ton of usage with no Jokic. Guys like Gary Harris, Mason Plumlee, Kenneth FARIED, these are good mid-tier and value options today in my opinion. So I like Gary Harris in that price range at shooting guard. If you want to go to him, I think he makes a ton of sense. And then looking for value at shooting guard, I don't think it's a position I'm really going to go to cheap at today. There are guys here like JJ Barea that I think are decent value plays. Maybe a guy like Marco Bellinelli in a really good matchup against Brooklyn. Bellinelli has been playing pretty well lately. He's been pretty consistent. Just in his last 4 games, 28, 19, 32, 18 DraftKings points. Definitely has some duds in there where he only put up 18 and 19. But Bellinelli does have some good upside. He is a good shooter. If he's making his shots, can provide you plenty of value to get 6, 7x. Great matchup against Brooklyn. These teams did just play, and Bellinelli only put up 18.5. I think Bellinelli definitely bounces back today, gets at least 20 on it, just 4,400. He does make sense as a cheap cash game option if you want to go to him. There is one guy here that I do want to touch on. It's a cheap option, point guard and shooting guard eligible. ALEC Burks at 4K. If Raul Neto and Rodney Hood are both out today, definitely going to want to consider ALEC Burks at his cheap price tag. With Hood and Neto out just in the last 2 games, Burks has been seeing some pretty decent minutes, and he's been playing really well. Definitely been producing when it comes to fantasy. Just in his last 2 games, with those 2 guys out, ALEC Burks has played 29 and 31 minutes and has put up 53 and 35 DraftKings points. So if Rodney Hood and Raul Neto are both out today, we're definitely going to want to consider ALEC Burks as a really cheap value option at point guard or shooting guard. Really like him at 4K if those 2 guys are out. But yeah, guys, that's what I'm seeing for value at this position. Let's go ahead and move on to small forward. Alright, so up top at small forward, we got plenty of studs at this position. We got LeBron, Giannis, KD, Ben Simmons also eligible here. So plenty of stud options to consider here. I don't think I'm going to be paying up for LeBron today, not at 11,800. Definitely some blowout concern here against the Bulls. Obviously, it's a good matchup for LeBron. Nobody on that Bulls team can really stop him. But I believe these teams have faced off once this year. LeBron did have a pretty nice game against the Bulls earlier this year. He did put up 64 DraftKings points. I'm not sure if that game was competitive or not. But LeBron put up 34 points, 13 assists, and 2 rebounds when he faced the Bulls earlier this year. We know LeBron is a good option. He's always a good option, especially for cash games. You just look at his last 4 games. 58, 58, 59, 55 DraftKings points. The guy's just so consistent. He has a ton of upside. LeBron's probably going to get at least 50 here. He has potential to get 70, 80, 90 if this game stays competitive. But there are plenty of other stud options that we'll get onto later that are good options to pay up for. I'm not telling you to fade LeBron today, but I don't think he's a guy that I'm trying to force into my lineups. One guy that's definitely interesting for cheaper is Giannis at 10,600. Really nice price tag today on Giannis. We've seen LeBron and Giannis be very similar in price just as the last few days. But Giannis has a really nice price tag on him at 10.6. Did see a $1,000 decrease off of what he was his last game. 2 games this year versus Boston. I'm not sure if both of these games were with or without Eric Bledsoe. I believe both of them were without Bledsoe. But Giannis has averaged 61 DraftKings points through 2 games this year versus Boston. Like I said, I think both of those were played when Bledsoe wasn't on the team. But still, we know what kind of upside Giannis has. Obviously, Boston is a good defensive team. They have good defenders like Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, even Tatum's been solid defensively this year. But nobody can really stop Giannis. The dude is matchup proof. So at this discounted price, I think he does make some sense today at 10,600. Even though it's sort of a tough matchup, I think Giannis can still pay off that price tag, especially with the decrease in price. So if you want to pay up for him, obviously Giannis is in play pretty much every day. But on an 11-game slate, there are a ton of other options that we can consider, especially guys that we'll get onto later at other positions. But looking at another one of these stud options, Kevin Durant today at 9K. KD seems way too cheap today. Definitely a really nice price tag on him. Did see a $600 decrease in price off of what he was his last game. In the one game that the Pelicans have played the Warriors this year, KD put up 50 DraftKings points, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, did get 7 blocks. in the one game that he faced the Pelicans earlier this year. So I think at this 9K price tag, I think Kevin Durant in a good matchup against the Pelicans. Nobody on that team can really stop him. KD's another one of those guys that's just matchup proof. Nobody can really stop him. So at 9K at this discounted price, I think it does make a ton of sense. If you want to pay up for KD at small forward, I think he is a really good option, especially with that discounted price. And then if we're looking for some mid-tier options today at small forward, Robert Covington, 6,200 against the Suns. Really good matchup today for Robert Covington. I think he makes plenty of sense if you're going to that mid-tier at small forward, especially given this good matchup. I think it's very likely that Covington pays off this price tag. At this price for cash games, you want about 30 DraftKings points from Robert Covington today. And I think he definitely gets there, especially in the good matchup and the up and pace spot. So I really like getting some exposure to those Sixers today. And Robert Covington, if you don't want to pay up for like EMBIID, SIMMONS, I think he's a very good option. 6,200 in that mid-tier at small forward or power forward. And if we are looking for some value at this position, definitely a couple value plays that I think are very good plays today. First off, Ersan Ilyasova, 4,800. I think it's a great value play today, going up against the Nets. With no John Collins, with no Dwayne Dedmon, Ilyasova did start in their last game against Brooklyn. I believe Miles Plumlee started at the 5 and Ilyasova started at power forward. And in their last game against Brooklyn, where he did start, he did play 24 minutes and put up 24 DraftKings points. He was only 1 point shy of getting the double-double bonus, so would have had a little bit more DraftKings points than he did. With no Collins, with no Dwayne Dedmon, Ilyasova is going to see an increase in minutes, especially now that he's in the starting lineup. And even though the price tag has started to rise a bit at 4,800, this is a great spot against Brooklyn. So I think Ilyasova, if you're going to small forward or power forward today and you need value, I think he's definitely in play at 4,800. And then there is one really cheap option today that I want to talk about at small forward. With no Kristaps Porzingis, I believe Kristaps played, or I believe the Knicks played on Sunday, and Porzingis was out. They've already ruled him out today. And I think on Sunday's game, Michael Beasley actually started for Porzingis. And Porzingis has already been ruled out for today's game, so if Beasley gets the start again, he has a great value play. He's probably a lock, to be honest with you, if he starts at 3,500. Beasley's one of those guys where if he gets minutes, he's going to produce for you. Just looking that game against Houston, I believe Porzingis and KANTER, they were both out in that game, and Michael Beasley got the start, played 36 minutes, 42 DraftKings points. Porzingis has already been ruled out today, so Beasley should probably get the start. He did start, like I said, on Sunday against the Magic. He started in that game. I believe he had a very nice game as well. So if Beasley gets the start again today, great value play, probably a lock for your cash games, especially at 3,500. If he's going to start and play at least 25 minutes, which I imagine he's going to, he shouldn't have a problem at all paying off this price tag. So Michael Beasley, definitely a lock play today, in my opinion. If he gets the start, he is a great value option at small forward or power forward at 3,500. And yeah, guys, I think that's it for value at small forward. Let's go ahead and move on to power forward. Alright, so at power forward today, I think we have a clear stud up top of this position that we're going to want to consider paying up for. I think he might be the top stud on the slate. That's DeMarcus Cousins, 11K, going up against the Warriors. With no Anthony Davis, he's already been ruled out for today. Boogie's going to be a usage monster. He's going to see a ton of shots. He already plays a ton of minutes, so the minutes aren't really going to increase for Boogie. They might increase a little bit, but the usage and the shots are what really matter. Just in their last game against Portland, Boogie put up 50 DraftKings points in that game, 38 points, 8 rebounds, took 28 shots in that game. And I know in the games that Anthony Davis has missed this year, DeMarcus Cousins has put up some monster games. I believe he put up like 70, 80 DraftKings points one game this year where Anthony Davis was out. So with no AD out, Boogie's definitely a guy we're going to want to pay up for. Great matchup against the Warriors. They don't have really anyone that can defend this guy. I guess they can put Draymond Green or KD on him, but those guys really don't stand a chance against a guy like Boogie who's just so big and strong. And him and AD have had a ton of success in this matchup. So really like DeMarcus Cousins today. I think he's one of the studs you're going to want to consider paying up for. And I actually think he's kind of underpriced, especially with no AD. 11K is too cheap in my opinion. I think Boogie pays off this price tag if this is a competitive game. So I really like paying up for him today. 11K, probably my favorite stud on the slate. And if you don't want to pay up in this position, you want to look for the mid-tier, go for some options here. I think there are some good options here. ENES KANTER at 6,200 with no Porzingis today. This is a really good spot for ENES KANTER. Getting to go up against Miles Turner, this is definitely a good spot for ENES KANTER. When these teams faced off earlier this year, I would imagine Porzingis played in this game, but KANTER put up 32 DraftKings points, 9 points, 18 rebounds. in the one game earlier this year that the Knicks played the Pacers. And with Porzingis already ruled out, like I said, this is a great spot for Kanter. I think he gets a double-double today. I think he gets at least 30 DraftKings points. So definitely a guy we're going to want to consider at 6,200 if we're going to that price range at power forward or center. He is definitely a really good option. And then if we are looking for value at this position, I think there's a lot of value at power forward and center today. First off, Ilyasova, I already talked about him. I think he's a great value play. Kenneth Faried, if he gets the start today, he's a very good value option at 4,800. When Faried has started, just for the Nuggets as of late, in the games he started, he's pretty much always hit value. Just looking at his last 4 games, 28, 20, 32, and 27 DraftKings points. Minutes haven't been crazy high, but Faried's never a guy that's going to play like 30, 35 minutes. Just 31, 23, 22, and 27 minutes in his last 4 games. But Faried's another one of those guys, when he's on the court, he's going to produce for you. He's going to grab rebounds. He'll score. Probably get a double-double today. Great matchup against Dallas, who really struggled to defend bigs. So if Faried starts today, very good value option if you need to go cheap at power forward or center. I think he makes a ton of sense. I'm at 4,800. And then another really good value play, in my opinion, at this position is Mason Plumlee, 4,300 in that same game. I think with no Jokic, Plumlee's just way too cheap today. The price tag hasn't really caught up to the production, at least the production that's going to come. With no Jokic in their last game, Plumlee started at center and he played 31 minutes against the Lakers and put up 28 DraftKings points. It's a great matchup today against Dallas, a very bad rebounding team, a very bad team against centers. Great spot for Mason Plumlee. He's probably one of the lock value plays. I think him and Michael Beasley are 2 of the best value plays on the slate. Both of these guys are just too cheap in my opinion. So really like Mason Plumlee today as a value option we can target at power forward or center for 4,300. And I think that's it for value at this position. Juancho Hernangomez could be a potential value play. He has been starting lately with Wilson Chandler out, but he hasn't really been doing much just when it comes to minutes and production. The production hasn't been there, neither had the minutes. Just in his last 4 games, 18, 28, 23, and 23 minutes, so the minutes have kind of been up and down. Only 10, 22, 4, 14 DraftKings points. So I don't know if I'd go to Juancho here. You can get a guy like Michael Beasley, who's probably going to start for Porzingis today and is a great value play. You can get him for just 200 less. So if you need to go this cheap at power forward, much rather have Beasley at 3,500 over Hernangomez. But Hernangomez definitely could be in consideration if he does start for Wilson Chandler. But yeah, guys, that's what I'm seeing at power forward today. Let's go ahead and move on to center. Alright, so at center today, there are good options here to pay up for. Already talked about Boogie. I think he's one of the top studs on the slate. You can play him at center. Joel Embiid is also another top stud option in my opinion. Going up against the Suns, this game obviously has a ton of potential to be a blowout. But if it stays competitive, this is such a good spot for Joel Embiid. The Suns really can't defend centers. They just really can't defend any position. So great spot for Joel Embiid. More of a tournament play because guys like DeMarcus Cousins, those are the guys you want to pay up for in cash. But we know the kind of upside Embiid has. Great matchup against the Suns. So I think he's also an option you can pay up for, but I'd prefer him in tournaments. I would much rather have a guy like DeMarcus Cousins for cash games if you're paying up at center in cash. And then looking in this mid-tier for some options here, Dwight Howard at 7,700. Howard did really burn me on Friday in their game against Miami. I thought Howard was in such a good spot with no Whiteside, and he only played 17 minutes because he got in foul trouble. Only put up 10 points and 9 rebounds, had 9 turnovers, 18.75 DraftKings points the last game against Miami. But this is definitely a bounce-back spot for Howard. Going up against Orlando, going up against Nikola Vucevic, who I've said before is not a very good defender. This is a really good spot for Dwight Howard, and especially if Kemba is out, he might be relied on a little bit more for scoring. So I think he definitely makes sense in that mid-tier. 7,700, I think he's a really good option. And then another option in this mid-tier, you can play ENES Kanter here. I talked about him earlier. I think he's a good play at 6,200 with no Porzingis. But right under him is Myles Turner, who I also think is a very good option at 6,100. Going up against Kanter, we know Kanter is not a very good defender. So this is a very good matchup for Turner. He won't have to go up against Porzingis. He will be able to see defense from Kanter, and like I said, Kanter's not a good defender. So this is a good spot for Myles Turner. Really nice price tag on him at 6,100. I think he pays this off. So I think he makes some sense as well if you're going to that mid-tier at center. I think him and ENES Kanter are both very good options from that Knicks-Pacers game. And if we are looking for some value at center, looking at some value at this position, there are guys that I've talked about earlier, there's guys I've talked about earlier that are eligible here, like Kenneth Faried, Mason Plumlee. You can play these guys as value plays. But I think that's it for value at center today, guys. think that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure you drop a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe as well if you are new to the channel or if you haven't subscribed yet. Be sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you guys have any questions or need to ask me something, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section or hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT. Be sure to follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. And yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck tonight, guys. Peace.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, she shaking fast. Yeah, she dropping slow. What? Yeah, neck on fro. Whoa, 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 whoa.